Assignment 3, Understanding Stress, assembled by Shaylin Strome, Juliana Dutrisac, Shelina Esch, Michelle Friesen, and Tara Burdock. Introduction. Stress is something that we all deal with in our lives. For some, it's extreme, and for others, it can just be the stressors we deal with in daily life. But because it's so relevant in people's lives today, it's important to be able to identify stress. Understanding and coping with life stressors can help a person manage stress, whether it be eustress or negative stress. In our PowerPoint, we will discuss what stress really is, how general adaptation syndrome is a part of stress, where stress comes from, and how it can affect post-secondary students. What is stress? Stress is the mental and physical response of our bodies to the various demands or expectations placed upon us in our lives. Usually, people think of stress as something they are confronted with on the outside that threatens or makes a demand on our minds and bodies. Despite most people's belief, stress in itself is neither positive nor negative, but in reality, it's just our body's reactions to it that can be described in such a way. The different reactions that people have to stress can either lead an individual to health-enhancing personal growth or to debilitation. Positive and negative stress. So eustress is also known as positive stress, or stress that results from generally positive situations. Distress is also known as negative stress. Although one is assumed to be negative, it can still supply a person with an opportunity for personal growth and can lead to personal satisfaction. Some causes of stress. Eustress can be caused by getting married, starting school, beginning a career, or developing new friendships. Distress can be caused by financial problems, injury or illness, death of a loved one, or academic difficulties. Interesting statistics on perceived life stress. According to Statistics in Canada in 2017, these specific age groupings rated their life stress most days quite a bit or extremely stressful. 11.6% was 12 to 17-year-olds, 23.3% 18 to 34-year-olds, 27.5% 35 to 49 years, 25.6% 50 to 64 years, and the lowest of all extreme stress rated was 11.3% for people of 65 years and over.
General adaptation syndrome, the 3 stages. Stage 1 is the alarm reaction stage. The alarm stage, or the fight or flight response, which is a psychological response to stress, hormonal response within the body. So the autonomic nervous system, ANS, prepares the body for action. The sympathetic nervous system energizes the body for action. The parasympathetic nervous system slows the systems initiated by the SNS, works as an opposing force to the SNS. The hypothalamus, which is the control center of the brain and determines bodily reactions to the stimuli or stimulus. Epinephrine/adrenaline stimulates the body systems, increases the heart rate, producing more blood flow, which in turn increases reaction time to the stimuli or stimulus. If stress is prolonged over time and needs to access further energy, its body releases adrenocorticotropic hormone, which in turn stimulates the adrenal glands to release cortisol. Cortisol induces access to stored nutrients to balance the stress-induced demands. Stage 2 is the resistance stage. Happens immediately after the alarm phase. Body begins to repair itself. Your heart rate and blood pressure begins to normalize. Signs can be irritability, frustration, or poor concentration. The third and final stage is the exhaustion stage. You've drained your body of physical, emotional, and mental materials. Some symptoms can be fatigue, burnout, depression, anxiety, and decreased stress tolerance. Here's just a graph of the general adaptation syndrome. This shows the alarm stage. So your flight or fight activation causes stress resistance, increased ability to deal with stress, and then it heightens into the resistance stage. Your body starts to react to the stress resistance no longer increases, and then your final stage is your exhaustion stage. Resources become depleted and stress resistance starts to decrease, and your body system deteriorates. Some of the causes or interventions. Some of the causes for GAS would be job loss, medical problems, financial troubles, family breakdowns or traumas. Some interventions that you could look into would be meditation, cut off from unnecessary stressors, medications, and self-care.
Sources of stress. When we think of stress, our initial instinct is to relate it or blame it on something as a cause. While this is usually the case, not all stress comes from outside factors, and sometimes the stress we face comes from our own minds or way of thinking. There are many different sources from which stress originates or is created. Some of these include psychosocial factors, environmental influences, and self-imposed stress. As we explore some of these factors, consider your day-to-day routine. Is there something you do that creates stress? Is there something in your life that has happened that may have caused you stress? Or do you avoid certain situations to try to avoid the stress that comes with them? Psychosocial stress. Psychosocial stressors are the stressors that affect the intellectual, social, emotional, and spiritual parts of an individual. Many factors in your daily life might make you feel stressed. For some, it can be particular interactions, expectations at work or in relationships, or the social conditions around you. The factors associated with psychosocial stress are change, pressure, inconsistent goals or behaviors, conflict, overload, and burnout. Environmental stress. Environmental stressors are something that is usually outside of the individual's control and happens in the physical environment of the person. They can cause ample amount of physical stress depending on the situation. The environment can cause background distressors as well. This means that the distressors can cause problems over longer periods of exposure. These are typically responded to with the GAS, which can cause a person to be in a constant resistant phase if the distressors persist. So regular stressors, meaning your outside environment that you can't really do much about, would be explosions, tornadoes, industrial disasters, and flooding. So pretty much any type of natural disaster or things like that. Distressors would be more along the lines of noise pollution, so creating an issue in the long term, maybe hearing loss or something like that. Water pollution, so affecting your body system as you drink more of it. Heat, long exposure to heat causing potentially melanoma or skin cancer, and hardcore wind chills, like from the Alberta province, when we don't really think we're realizing how cold our body is, we're actually dealing with it all the time, and it's not something that our body is used to dealing with. Self-imposed stress. Self-imposed stress is the result of how you view yourself and your actions during personal interactions with others. It involves how you process the stressors from other categories of sources of stress and is a psychological portion of stress. It is our cognitive stress system that decides how we process and regulate the stress we experience. This is based off of past experience, our self-esteem, and emotions, and the like. Our personality and experiences are a good indication of how we will handle certain types of stress. While a person who is confident in their work may thrive in a deadline and stress-filled situation, someone who is less confident in themselves may crack under the pressure and submit to the stress. Self-esteem and self-efficacy are huge players in a person's ability to manage and maintain stress levels. To feel good about yourself and to have confidence in your abilities and skills has been shown to typically help people move through stressful situations more fluidly. An individual who has been met with failure or negativity following stressful experiences may have a more difficult time getting through stressful situations in the future.
Stress in the post-secondary student. Stress in students relates to heavy course and workloads and characterization of workload. Some statistics of workload: the proportion of students estimating their program workload to be appropriate is 43.8%. The proportion of students estimating their program workload to be too high is 54%. If a student considers stress a negative stress may be higher. Workload as a cause of stress is significantly higher for students considering stress as negative. Stress doesn't just start in post-secondary. High schoolers deal with stress from heavy workloads as well. A study used survey data to examine relations among homework, student well-being, and behavior engagement in a sample of 4,317 students from 10 high-performing high schools in upper middle-class communities. Results indicate that students in these schools average more than 3 hours of homework per night. Students who did more hours of homework experienced greater behavioral engagement in school, but also more academic stress, physical health problems, and a lack of balance in their lives. Causes of stress for post-secondary students: being away from home for the first time, climatic differences between home and school, making new friends, potentially intimidating settings, anonymity due to size of class and institute, test-taking anxiety, time management responsibility, social pressure, and peer expectation, roommate habits, on-campus food selection, team requirements, evolving values and beliefs, relationship problems, social organization demands, financial worry, change in sleeping habits. So these are just some of the reasons students may experience stress, since the causes of stress are different for everyone. Technological demands are also placed on students. Technology can be a very valuable tool for post-secondary students, but sometimes technology demands can cause stress. Current post-secondary students have the additional pressure of being expected to be constantly connected through various forms of social media. Computer-related tasks may take longer than expected to sift through the oceans of information available to find the relevant information because of the advancement of technology. Most colleges and universities offer stress management workshops through health centers. Students may not realize that they are stressed and should watch for these symptoms: difficulty keeping up with classes, difficulty concentrating on and finishing tasks, frequent clashes with close friends, family, and intimate partners about trivial issues, frequent mood changes or overreaction to minor problems, lethargy caused by lack of sleep or excessive frustration, lack of interest in social activities, tendency to avoid others, avoidance of stressor through the use of drugs, alcohol, or other extreme behaviors, sleep disturbances, technology-related addiction, difficulty maintaining intimate relationships, lack of interest in sexual relationships, inability to participate, tendency to be intolerant of minor differences or of opinion, hunger cravings and overeating, lack of awareness of sensory clues, inability to listen, tendency to jump from subject to subject in a conversation, stuttering, speech difficulties, accident proneness, word retrieval difficulty, or frequent misspeaking, free-floating anxiety. Post-secondary students and suicide. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death for people of all ages. In 2009, it ranked as the 9th leading cause of death in Canada. Among those aged 15 to 34, suicide was the 2nd leading cause of death, preceded only by accidents. Because they do not generally die from natural causes, suicide represents a relatively large percentage of all deaths for younger age groups, 15 to 34. After the age of 35, suicides as a proportion of all deaths start to decline as other causes become more common. Stress management. Stress management comes in many different forms. Some may seem silly, such as eating well, and others may seem like common sense, like learning to manage your time. Nonetheless, these techniques are all important. When introduced to a new situation that involves stress, it is important to find or list the aspects that may cause you stress. Then it would be important to assess the stress and manage your attack plan to fit the stressor. Do not be afraid to downshift. Move from larger to smaller. Clean out and declutter your life. Take time to determine your goals and make short-term and long-term plans. These are all examples of ways of finding rhythm rather than balance, as balance can often be unattainable, and rhythm is definitely easier to attain. Choose a career that works for you. If you do what you enjoy, you will never work a day in your life. And complete a financial inventory, knowing how much money is needed to complete the goal and how to save money. Techno-stress. Taking time away from technology is important. Some ways of doing this are enjoying the environment and scheduling time to use technology. Focusing on one task at a time. Do not take gadgets on vacation. Back up your work regularly. Nothing is more stressful than completing a project and having it disappear. Know that no matter what, technology will change.
Social interactions. Sometimes social interactions are a great way to deal with stress. Having a person that may help you laugh or let you vent a little may greatly help relieve stress. Do not be afraid to participate in support groups. Find people who have similar values, similar interests, but different interests to expand your own, that are good listeners, are tolerant and share freely, are trustworthy, consider your needs, are responsible, know when and how to have fun, are willing to be physical activity buddies, and know how to engage in meaningful conversations. Mental action. Mental action has two aspects: positive self-efficacy and development of skills necessary to manage a reaction to stress. Change the way you think. Once you realize the way you speak is negative, irrational, or overreactive, try to focus on the positives or be more compassionate with yourself. You start to feel like you're beating yourself up. Take a step back and start talking to yourself like you are a child. Would you tell a six-year-old that they will amount to nothing? Would you tell them that nothing they do is good enough? Do not worry about things that you can not change. Accept that change is a natural part of life. Know that there is rarely ever one course of action. There are always alternatives. Be realistic about your expectations. Do not sweat the small stuff. Apply the rule of 5. Will this matter in 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? Think before you act. Focus on the positives. If you come across a challenge, see it as an obstacle instead of a barrier. Obstacles can be overcome. And break down tasks into smaller parts. Take your physical health into consideration. Take notice of physical health and take time to concentrate on that. Physical activity is a great way to alleviate stress because of the endorphins being released. Eat well and relax, allowing your heart rate to lower and your body to calm down. Some relaxing techniques include deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, time sitting quietly, a warm bath, massage therapy, meditation, and learning time management skills and organizing skills that are very important in not only managing stress but reducing it as well.
Spiritual health. What is spirituality? Spirituality is your sense of peace, purpose, and connection to others about the meaning in life. Religion. Religion is a system of beliefs, practices, and rituals and symbols designed to facilitate closeness to the sacred or transcendent. The 3 cores of human spirituality. Relationships. How you treat yourself and others. Do you treat them with love and respect? Do you treat yourself with love and respect? Values. Unwritten guidelines in which you live your life and how you live your life, with courtesy, integrity, honesty, perseverance, meaningful purpose in life, what they want to do with their life, what is their overall plan going through life. Human spirituality, ability to access higher meanings, values, abiding purposes, and unconscious aspects of self. This can help you find moral and ethical path to guide you through life. Spiritual help contributes to physical health in regard to lower anxiety and depression rates, lower alcohol and drug use, decreased blood pressure and heart disease risk, mental health, social support, feeling complete or a part of something bigger, stress reduction, channeling negative energy through prayer or meditation, focusing on your spiritual health, train your body. Physical movements can help build spiritual health, changing your breathing techniques or stretching. Expanding your mind, letting go of negative aspects of one life, even if momentarily, give the mind a chance to release some tension. Becoming more self-aware of your limitations and boundaries. Tuning into yourself and your environment. Contemplation, concentrating the mind on a spiritual or ethical question or subject, a view of the natural world, or an icon or other image representative of divinity. Mindfulness, being in the moment in regard to your body, mind, and soul. Meditation, that could be mantra, breath, color, or candle, a form of mental exercise in which people allow the mind to focus on one thing at a time to replicate stillness. Prayer, a communication with a transcendent presence. This could include prayer to a god or a loved one who has passed on. Reaching out. Altruism is the action of offering yourself out of genuine concern of others. Environmental stewardship, making responsible decisions for a long-term health of the environment.
Whether your stress is something you feel that rules your life or is something that affects you occasionally, stress continues to be a part of life. It is our hope that you have a better understanding of what stress is, how general adaptation syndrome is a part of stress, where stress comes from, and how stress can affect post-secondary students. We also hope that stress has potentially become easier to identify, that you have a stronger understanding of the sources and management of life's stressors.